Let's start by, I mean, some people play the violin really well, some people dance really well. When did you decide to mash the two?
Oh man, to be honest, I started to mash the two when I was in my 20s because I wanted to perform. Like, you know, I'm currently on a tour right now, and touring is really the reason that I started this whole journey. Was I wanted to entertain people, and the music I was writing, I was like, man, I gotta move while I play this kind of music.
And that was it.
That was it.
I've heard you say you are a creative person through and through. And so, like, playing an instrument, a lot of people play an instrument, but what you do with the violin, we just showed some of it there, and now you have added aerial to the mix. When did you decide to go airborne?
Oh, well, yeah, the ground got boring. No, but, you know, dancing and moving is so much fun, and I love putting that in my show. And then when I started to dabble in aerial, and I realized that I could play the violin while spinning on a hoop upside down. I mean, with a lot of practice is how I realized that. But it just was like, oh my gosh, this is something new, exciting. It's so fun to see the audience react to it every night. Yeah.
As a fan of what you do and someone who plays a stringed instrument, like, how do you not miss a note?
Ooh.
I mean, I'm sure you would say, oh, I do every once in a while, but the audience doesn't hear it. It's amazing. Yeah. How do you keep the violin so on point when you're upside down spinning around? I
mean, honestly, practice. I've been doing it, and it always feels impossible when I start a new skill. I'm like, oh, this will never work. But I've learned that if you just keep at something long enough, and, you know, even a few days before we went on this tour, there's a certain new trick I've added to the show that I was, like, ready and prepared to cut, but I was going to work at it until the first show, and literally I got it solid just in time.
Amazing. In June, you came out with your 7th studio album, Duality. And what really, this must have been really cool for you. Did you know in advance that Suni Lee was going to use a piece of your music for the flow routine? I
did. I actually knew it ahead of time because she used it in Tokyo, another song, and so and I was surprised that time. And this time I knew it was coming, and I like literally cried through her whole routine. It was really magical.
It was a perfect piece. After that first pass, where your violin's going the first pass, and then the music kicks in and the drama, and it was, yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was emotional.
Take us through the process of incorporating dance. I mean, when I watched the show, you know, you have your guitarist on stage with you and drummer, and you have this band. Incorporating dance choreography in the routine.
Yeah. Well, I also have 5 amazing dancers. Like, it's a very theatrical show with lots of costumes changes, you know, aerial acrobatics, as we talked about, and then my band, the dancers. I mean, I really have to say, this is the show I'm the most proud of that I've ever put together. And it really is, like, there's not a chance to get bored in the show. Like, you're constantly, there's always something to look at. If it's not me, it's one of my cute dancers or amazing acrobats. Like, it's fun.
Yeah, and I just like your guitarist as well, because
he's awesome.
You guys played Kashmir by Led Zeppelin at Lollapalooza, which is one of my favorites. Just let me ask you a question, because, you know, people can see young, successful, but it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And, you know, you played classical violin till you were, right, 20 about. What would you say to a younger version of you who's playing an instrument and maybe wants to go beyond the boundaries of what traditionally playing an instrument is when you're a kid?
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give?
Experimentation, you know, like, it wasn't until I was about my 20s that I started to realize, like, maybe there is a different way to play the violin, you know, and maybe there is. And it wasn't like I saw someone doing exactly what I do now, and that made me be like, I'm going to do. It was just like seeing other people being creative in their own way, and it just gave me the courage to experiment and try to do something maybe that I hadn't heard before. And, you know, that takes a little bit of bravery, but I would say just having fun and experimenting. Let yourself be a little wild with it.
The music is fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back to the show. We really do appreciate it. And you can catch Lindsey's new album, Duality. It's out now, and she's on tour. You can get tickets.